We're live.
Are we?
Mine says live.
Yeah, it says live online now. Look
Okay,
at the Huh?
thumbnail.
Oh yeah, are we ready for the thumbnail?
Yeah, just do something really animated, Randy, and hold it, okay?
Okay. Hold it?
Yeah, hold your pose.
And 3, 2, 1.
All right, we're live.
We are officially live. I can actually close my Facebook. And we haven't lost anything. I guess I should go ahead and share it with people though.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Randy, this reminds me of smoke breaks.
Oh, yeah.
The what?
You had to share multiple devices.
Smoke breaks. We're live. Trade talk. I gotta share this with my people because I think lots of people should learn about this. Tuesday.
It's happening. This time you get to also say that you're the special guest. We got Ranny in the building.
Ranny in the Zoom call.
Yes. I'm just excited, y'all, because pretty soon we're about to be having some pretty epic stuff coming through. Like super exciting. Ooh. So we got a few people that have jumped into the call with us so far. Man, I got my camera equipment in the back behind us.
Makes it official.
a lot of stuff is happening in the studio, so we're gonna close that though.
Hey, Mari, how's it going, girl?
Kamari's on with us. Hey, Kamari, how you doing? We loved having you on the show last Thursday. Questions? You try to knock me off my guard. She tried to take me down, y'all.
She said Tycoon Tuesdays.
Hey! Too bad I'm not having tacos tonight. I'm having pasta.
I'm having taco salad tonight.
No,
Satay chicken.
Ooh. Ranny for the win. All right. So I guess, like we always do, if you're new to the show or if you're new to like watching what we do here, let us know who you are and where you're from. Well, we'll see that you're in the Zoom, but yeah, just let us know where you're coming from. It's nice to know, like, I think one time we had somebody, where was the furthest that we had them from?
Canada.
Yeah. No, we had somebody from Europe.
Oh, I didn't see.
Yeah. I think it was one of my clients from Europe. So that was interesting. I was like, shouldn't you be asleep?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
For the people that are already joining us, make sure you share. And if you haven't liked the Come Up series and follow, do that. I'll give you about 2 seconds to do that.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I'm taking on faith you did it. Well, I'm really excited today to have, I'm about to say Kamara because I just saw her name.
All right.
So excited to have Randy on here today.
What's up?
Everybody. New mama, new investor.
Very new.
You're out here.
Hey, it's okay. It's not about where you start. It's like how you finish.
And it's a matter of starting.
That's true. You gotta actually
start somewhere.
We got Lakeisha in St. Louis. We got
Dallas.
All right.
Midwest, where you from? Hey.
Okay, y'all did not come to play. Who else is up in here?
Yo, I have a feeling that the comment section is about to be lit today.
I feel it.
All right, let's do it. We're going to be dropping some gems today. So let me know when you guys are ready. We're going to get straight to it.
I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Well, hey,
Good.
you the host, so.
Okay. Well, I was looking at the chat too and see.
Oh, okay.
All right. So everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is episode 5, Trade Talk Tuesdays, where we talk about what's going on with your trades. We talk about strategy, and today we have a special guest, Ranny Kang, and we are going to take a look at what she's up to with her trades, get her questions answered, have a dialogue, and get your questions answered as well. Those of you in the comments, make sure you submit your questions. And if you want to be where Ranny is right now, shout out to Sage. I see you, girl. If you want to be where Ranny is, where we can take a look at your particular portfolio, then hit us up on the Come Up Series page, and we can make that happen. So Ranny is our first official Trade Talk Tuesday guest. Give it up for Ranny.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous for people to see how much I don't know.
Oh, you're fine.
But it's all good.
It's all good.
I'm willing to be that person, the casualty in learning.
Winners, girl.
There it is, winners.
You took a step that some people are still thinking about making.
Yeah, you took a step that people have been talking about. You took a step that people have been talking 5 years about making, and yet, you're here.
Yeah.
You said it, you did it, and now you're here. So that's lit. How many weeks has it been? Like 2?
I think it's 1.
What?
Yeah. I made my first purchase last week with you.
Wait, how's your portfolio doing so far?
It's great.
Okay.
For how much I invested. I took your advice last week,
okay.
and I purchased AMD,
okay.
which came up.
Yes.
And then I did purchase a little bit of Facebook because, yeah. It's given. Jolene asked me why Facebook and not Microsoft, and I'm a Facebook user, and I know that they're like improving their platform. They bought Instagram. Oh, Instagram is something I use regularly too as well. And I remember listening to an investor. I think it was somebody with Tony Robbins. He was having a conversation with Tony Robbins, and he was saying, if you're using it, you should be owner of it. So that always stuck to me. Like if you are using an iPhone, you should be a part owner of Apple, which I use all of the Apple products, but their stocks are a little too pricey for me right now. So
yeah.
I'm there.
you got to start, but you started somewhere, and that's the beautiful part about it. I mean, a lot of folks say like, okay, hey, I'm waiting for the perfect time. And like I think I've said it across multiple times, there's no such thing as a perfect time until you've done it and then you've seen the return. Then you're like, oh, perfect timing.
Yeah. And even if it's just like a little bit, like just the matter of it, seeing it grow and seeing it grow much faster than the other platforms that I use. Cause I used Acorn, I used Stash, those little ones just for me to learn something with.
Those were incremental, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just for me to start learning about stuff, but I didn't really learn much until the Come Up series, because I just put money and I did automatic enroll, and it just took money out, like just a little bit at a time, and then I didn't really learn anything from that. So I was like, I really wanted to learn, and then the Come Up series came, and it was a perfect timing because I was ready to actually make some bigger, just make bigger steps in learning, and this is perfect.
Yeah. Our cinematographer is just like literally in the background, so you'll see him go back and forth. It's cool.
I love how he thinks that we can't.
Like, I'll just bring it up a little bit.
So, and then Jolene was there. She was, and you have somebody holding you accountable. Like, whenever you're ready. And I was like, okay, let's do it now. And we just got on onto FaceTime, and she helped me set up my E-Trade account. And I totally would have set up the wrong account if I didn't have somebody on. I did not know. Wow. I was ready to start like a broker's account or something like that. And
we're glad.
So even just like that thing, it saved me.
Nice.
And then we waited I think a week or maybe 2 weeks until I made my first purchase for the money to go through and stuff like that. So she gave me the assignment to think about the five companies.
She gave you the 5 companies?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I thought about that and started having conversations with my fiance. He actually went to Jersey back in the day to become a one of those stockbrokers, like back in the day, but
Yes.
it was not his
It
jam.
wasn't. It wasn't a jam.
No, but he knows a lot about it, and I just
That's
don't know
beautiful.
the questions to ask, right? So once you have questions to ask, then it becomes a conversation and
There
dialogue,
you
and
go.
then that's how I learn, is through speaking and listening. I can't read something to learn. I actually have to do it. So
Okay.
then last week the money came through, and it was like, okay, let's look. And AMD was a great one because it was a great one to purchase, because
Yeah.
all of the companies that I was looking at, I couldn't afford really. Like I could buy like one or two or three, but I couldn't like really buy a good amount of, and so AMD was a good one
Okay.
to start with.
So I would say, like, especially moving forward, I mean, a good, and this is very, very good, Ranny. A good way to get yourself going is, and a lot of folks when they're just getting started, they can do this. If you're bringing in, say for example, you'd be surprised what you can buy with, say for example, money that you're able to save month over month over month over month.
Hmm.
The money that you save, put that towards, say for example, your IRA, and then just invest it. Put it towards something. Even if you're, say for example, buying one share or two shares, doesn't matter. I mean, when you think about it in the long run, you're still winning.
So now, is it when I'm doing that? Am I doing it with companies that I know that aren't going to fold? Because
Well, yeah, like I've always said, you pick winners. Don't ever, just because a company used to be a winner back in the day doesn't mean that they're still going to be a winner tomorrow. So you got to look at what companies are winners, and we'll be going through a few series over a period of time. And especially if you have any questions, let us know. We'll teach you, like, how is it that you look for certain fundamentals that show the evidence of a good company. Because like I always say, success is traceable.
okay, is this a good time to ask another question?
Feel free, go for it.
So like if I'm purchasing, just say Facebook for $100, which is not, it's like over two right now, but for $100, and I would own that at that price. It would be
At the
worth
price.
like $100.
Mm-hmm.
And what if it goes down?
It's okay. That's okay. So here's the thing. Here's the difference between, and this is a good segue. So there's two types of people when it comes to, say, for example, money. You have investors, and then you have traders. Investors, they focus on they're very much so long term. So they don't really care about, say, for example, the things that happen in the interim, the woes of life of the day to day. They just know that when we look across a 5 to 10 year trajectory, we know that this stock or this company is going to be in a far greater position. And then you're seeing that because of its evidence of success. Now, traders, on the other hand, they're typically looking to get in and get out of stocks, or get in and get out of positions pretty quickly. So for them, timing matters because they're typically doing something on a shorter term. So if they see something happening like that day, they're probably most likely looking to check out or watch very closely. But in your case, since you're investing for the future. So literally just, hey, the stock market, I mean, most companies, if they're good companies, they're going to go up. If they're bad companies, of course, they go the opposite. But when you look at it in its trajectory, not even good companies are going to have bad days.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people bad days only last 24 hours.
Because with going back to the Facebook example,
Mm-hmm.
because there's an assumption that it's only going to increase in value over time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But when we look at our assumptions, we also have to look at it in the form of risk, right? So when we look at a company like Facebook, if I was to ask you, what are Facebook's keys to success of being a successful company moving forward in the future? Could you tell me?
I can guess some things.
That's fine. That's fine. That's okay. Just what you think. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say is Facebook, the company in totality, not just Facebook's platform, but just the company in totality? What would you say is its keys to being successful over the next 5 years?
Their acquisitions, like which companies they end up buying,
Mm-hmm.
how they their platform, and how they decide to go, how do they use their platform,
Mm-hmm.
and how do they integrate other, I would say how they integrate other apps or other companies into their platform.
Mhm.
And also when it could also impact it in a negative way too as well if they're
Of course.
integrating certain things. And then let's see, media, like they're just like bad news or even positive news, and how they contribute to society or how they make an impact on society.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. I'm going to hold that one. I'm going to follow up with a question, but go ahead.
Okay. And then let's see, and other things, other companies coming up that are doing what they do and their competition.
So like, for example, like a Snapchat, a Twitter.
Hmm.
So, okay. So when you mention like what it does socially, like here's the question. Could you imagine a world, given where we are today, imagine a world like, say, for example, I just snap my fingers and then tomorrow, Facebook, the company, doesn't exist anymore.
No, it wouldn't work. Like it just wouldn't work. I feel like, and unless they just stop like innovating and they aren't keeping up with what we need, and they're not like keeping up with the competitors, um, they're in here. They're here for a while. There are too many people who are on the platform. So
And that's the point. I mean,
yeah.
when you think about it, it's like that's what ultimately got it here to this stage to become so successful, because it became so dominant, and it still is dominant.
Hmm.
And when you think about what it does across its entire platform, where now we have to say not even platform anymore, it's ecosystem, because you have multiple different acquisitions that have become large within their own right. You know, to imagine a world without Facebook, all the startups, all the small businesses or large companies, where did they go to access over 3 billion people?
Hmm.
That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it is, and it is superior amongst all of the other platforms or all of the other social, I wouldn't say media, even like LinkedIn and I don't know what other ones are there right now.
I mean, yeah, because LinkedIn is now acquired by Microsoft, so Microsoft owns that. I mean, the race between, or the battle between Twitter and Facebook, that's over. I
Yeah.
mean, that's been over for like, I think 4 years now.
Yeah.
Snapchat, I mean.
And they bought Instagram. I mean, they bought Instagram.
Yeah, so.
That was like probably the best thing that they could have
The
done.
best thing that ever happened to the platform. And then next thing you know, they came back with another one with WhatsApp. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and then on top of that, there's a few other acquisitions that probably don't get the same type of notoriety. I think that, did they also make the acquisition offer for Giphy also?
Yep, just recently.
The landscape itself has changed. So when you think about it, when you think about its future and what sits ahead of the company Facebook as your investment, the future is pretty bright. I mean, of course, there are some things out there that can scare the company, that can spook investors in the short term, which is like government regulations and stuff like that. But in the grand scheme of things, sorry, you're not going to stop Facebook.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And there you have it. So that's when you look at it, when it's like, I always tell people, don't try to get too overly technical. Just think about it from a pure basic standpoint, in the sense of when you think about when you're picking a winner. And I think I said it a few episodes back, pick your stocks, because if you got best friends, you kind of consider them as winners, right? So pick your stocks just like you pick your best friend. You're very selective. You're not just going to make everybody your best friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at a chart for Facebook.
Can we pull up a chart for Facebook? Oh, yeah, of course we can pull up a chart for Facebook. I take it that you want me to pull up the chart for Facebook.
I do.
Of course.
You want to do screen share?
Yeah, I'm going to do a screen share.
Okay.
All right, so I have Facebook on my chart here.
And FYI, for those in the comments, I see your questions and we'll definitely get to them. I'm keeping track. So.
Oh, they're coming. They're coming.
I figured I didn't need a lot of questions because I'm sure other people had questions based off of mine.
Okay, so can you guys see what I am sharing?
Yep.
All right. So if you look at, if we're looking at Facebook here, this is just a 1-day chart. But then let's go to the past 5 years. I always say a good way to look at it is anywhere from a 1 to 5 year chart. So that way you can kind of see the trajectory of where the stock is going. So based upon seeing this, what does this chart tell you?
That it's just growing.
Yeah. I mean, we're at a point where pretty much once we get past this period of time, I mean, you're probably going to see Facebook heading up another leg up based upon where it's showing you here. But if we even go back and bring it even more, you're starting to see an upward trend here. If we go to, say, for example, the 1 year, we're seeing an even stronger upward trend. So of course we had some down moments, but when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, I mean, just think about where we started from. If we go to a change chart, look at the growth.
Is there a plateau? Do companies hit a plateau with their growth?
It's true, they do. Like, for example, all companies have their moments in which that they will hit a plateau. But you typically know that, and we typically see that as consumers first. When you start seeing the lack of innovation, and with the lack of innovation, when that starts to sink in, or the lack of good acquisitions start to sink in, then pretty much that starts to have impact on what the company overall does. I mean, what we're seeing from Facebook, it's not showing that based upon what we read in the news. I mean, as you could probably see, just like if you look at my news feature here, there are 2 major things that have just hit, or actually 3, but they're two of them are the same. One, the article in which that Facebook has purchased Giphy for $400 million, but then across multiple shows that Facebook is launching a new shopping feature across its apps. Now, for those in whom that were kind of slightly paying attention, it was originally launched on Instagram, and it started to become successful on Instagram, and now it's starting to make its way across Facebook, WhatsApp, and Messenger.
A lot of opportunity.
So just imagine how many small businesses, I mean, when you think about small business boutiques or small retail shops, you have to ask yourself, where are they going to go? If you want to have access to over 2 billion people, where do you go?
Right. And especially with them closing their brick and mortars too.
There you go. I mean, and that's what I said, it's like everything that what you see is kind of like systematic, where notice like we spent a little bit of time just looking at the chart trends, but the news itself carries far more weight. And that's why you probably heard the thing where it's like you buy on the rumors and you sell on the news. Well, today, this is news in the sense that Facebook has bought Giphy, and then on top of that, they are launching their new shopping feature across multiple platforms. That's news. The problem is, I don't think that anybody's selling, because the reason why is they believe that there's even more stronger opportunity there, which now this potentially could put Facebook in competition with other competitors like, say, for example, an Etsy, also slightly Amazon's market share.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks for the chart.
So I wanted to kind of like switch gears a little bit because of the fact that, you know, a lot of folks, and it's like we kind of hit an interesting point here. You know, it comes down to like a mindset. You know, when I first sit down and talk with people, and feel free, like this is going to be a moment where it's like, for those in which that are still in the chat, I mean, consider yourself fortunate because of the fact that this is going to be one of the most epic things that I ever probably give to you for the month of May. But I want you to write this down. And I typically do this to a lot of other folks in whom which that I advise on the side, but I'm giving it away to you guys as well, where it's like you can start thinking about it mentally. And that question is, what is the value of your time per hour?
Mm.
You know, it's like a lot of folks, the first thing that they think about is, say, for example, what a company or what your job pays you. You know, you're like, okay, hey, well, if my job pays me, you know, let's say 25 or 40 or, you know, $100 an hour, then that must be what I'm worth. That's not always the case, because if you had it your way, you would probably ask for more money. But the problem is that they would tell you, no, that's not what we're going to pay. But that, does that really mean that that's exactly what you're worth? Probably not. And so the reason why I tell people to look at the value of their time per hour, you'll be surprised. So for example, Randy, if I asked you, what do you think is the value of your time per hour? Or Jolene, what is the value of your time per hour? What would you say?
Oh goodness, I know my value. I don't know my value, so for me, it's pretty low. You know, I I would say $50 per hour, which is so low. I know,
Okay. Well, okay.
and that's like based off of like a wage or a salary mentality. But when it comes to my time, like if I'm trading my time for money, it's worth so much more than that.
So what is it then?
I don't know. I can't quantify it. It's like one of those things where it's like I can't even quantify. Like my time is so valuable to me. Unless
But what do you think it is then? Because you obviously
how do
have,
I do? How do I quantify it?
well, I mean, we'll get there, but I just want to know what you think. Like, what do you think about yourself? I mean, of course, everybody's going to give me the phrase like, okay, hey, the value of my time is priceless, which, I mean, of course it is. I mean, the value of life is priceless. But when you think about, like, say, for example, what you can do within a 24-hour span between 365 days out of the year, what is the value of your time per hour? Like, that is huge, because when you really think it, when people really start to think about that, I mean, it just changes everything. It literally changes everything. Now it's like you start to like think about like, okay, hey, is this really worth my time right here, or could I be spending it like, you know, doing it elsewhere?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's why I say like, what do you think the value of your time per hour should be?
So Randy, when Mark asked me this question back in 2018, I give you like a reference point. I said $150 an hour. I was like, that's what my time is worth. $150 per hour. And then after like a month of investing, I realized, oh my gosh, like I've been lowballing myself.
You
So
said yes at 50, but
increase, girl. So you know.
I mean, it's huge. Like, so that's why I said, for those of you guys that are in this stream right now, like this is like, if you don't hear anything else from me, like if I just disappeared off of the face of the earth, like this is one of those situations where it's like you would want to know, like, okay, hey, where was I on May 19, 2020? And this is where you will want to be, because nobody has really taught this to us.
mm-hmm.
You know, so when you ask yourself, what is the value of your time per hour? It's not what your job tells you. That is a fallacy. It's what you determine what it is. And when you have it set in your mind that this is what the value of your time is per hour, something like clicks. And then all of a sudden, it's like with the knowledge and everything else that you'll obtain and that you'll go out there and get for yourself, you start to notice that it changes what your earning power is.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've already just changed what your earning power is because of the fact that you made a step that most folks are afraid to take a step to do, which is, hey, let me go set up this account for me to invest my money, and then I'm actually going to go and buy some stock. Now, people have no problem in going on Fashion Nova to go buy XYZ. They have no problem in going to, you know, the Nike store and buying the latest pair of Jordans. But, you know, each one of those things are depreciated value. This is something that in which that you know is going to grow in value over time. So when we think about yourself, same thing. Are you a person that depreciates in value? Hell no. So you are a person that also appreciates in value. Why? Because you will continuously learn. So when you say $50 an hour, no way in hell. But here's a cheat code, y'all, because everybody's like, well, how do I quantify it? everybody wants to quantify. So I'll give you, this is gonna be a first, but you know what? I'm gonna just go out there and say it. All right. So the value of my time per hour so far, since this time last year to today, is about 12,800.
I want to get there.
Now multiply that times 2,080, which is the full-time hour.
Let's just do it.
What's the formula? Can you say that again?
So there's 2,080 hours that you work in a full-time, typically in a full-time job.
Uh-huh.
So if you take $12,800 and multiply that times 2080.
Okay.
That's how I quantify my time, because I took the time to learn, and I took my time to ultimately perform XYZ amounts of trades, and then ultimately that's what came back to me. I earned that based upon what is it that I learned and what is it that I applied my knowledge to invest. That's ultimately how you quantify your time. And you did it for yourself. Nobody told you. Go ahead.
Do I need to be investing for a certain period of time until I find that number to determine that number?
Yeah, it's going to take some time, but I mean, you can always start to quantify it. I mean, I typically say you can start quantifying it after a month, and don't beat yourself up when it starts off at a low number. It's okay. I mean, when you think about big businesses today, all big businesses started off small. They started somewhere. They started from nothing, and then ultimately they kept investing back into themselves. I mean, think about it. Amazon wasn't profitable until 2014.
Now look at them.
From 1999, or really 1995 to 2014, Amazon was not a profitable company. They had never reported a profitable earnings report. Just imagine you being a failing student, or a student who just does barely just enough to get by. So maybe just a D+ or C-. That is literally you since 1995 to 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all of a sudden, you go from 2014 to 2020, you are an A student. I mean, come on. And over time, look at what they did in order to get to 2014. And then when they got past 2014, no company out there could touch them.
Yeah.
So now when you think about the value of your time, that's why I said it's powerful. It's huge. It's something that honestly you just can't beat.
Okay.
So that's why I said it's like you guys got to focus on, say, for example, imagining the value of your time. And then here's another thing that you got to ask yourself: what's your number? Not your phone number, but what is your number? And I always say that everybody has a whole number that they're thinking in their head. And for those in whom that are following along with us, I mean, here, let's put some words of affirmation out there. Put whatever your number is in the comment section. And here's what I mean by your number. If I was to write you a check today, what would be that number for you to walk away from everything? I mean, realistically, like each and every single one of you know what your life situations are today. Everybody's life, everybody's walk is different, but everybody has a number of what it takes in order for them to walk away from what they're currently doing, so that way they can just go live. Like, that's the reason why we invest, right? Sorry, I didn't bring my water today, so I'm just going straight up dry.
Oh.
But oh, okay, yeah. Where's that umbrella? Hey. Oh.
Do you have an assistant over there?
AirPods connected though. But yeah, so when you think about it, like everybody has a number as it pertains to what it takes in order for them to walk away and just literally go and live.
Man, I already know my number's still very low for that.
But now that you've had this conversation, I guarantee you this: give it 12 to 24 hours, you're going to sit back and think about it, and then watch. It's just not going to be the same for you anymore.
Okay, I'm going to give it some time for it to click.
That's fair. And not everybody's going to just have a number right then and there. And typically what I find when I work with folks is that when they give me their number, they typically already know that they don't know, but it's already a low number.
Mm-hmm.
Take it from a kid like me that you know, I really came from, you know, the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm sitting, but, you know, here I stand. And so that's why I said, it's like, you know, you can do anything in which that you set your mind to. It's just the thing is that you just have to have that, you have to have that underlying, you know, that underlying kind of like grit and hustle and say that I'm willing to do this. I always tell people, live how nobody else would ever think to live. So that way, when you make it, you can live how they always dreamed of living.
Say that again.
Live how everybody would never think about living. So that way, when you make it, you can live how they always dreamed of living.
Mm-hmm.
For all those out there, just in case if you miss something, it's also going to be recorded. So
Can I ask a question?
go for it.
So this mindset that you have, was it a mindset that you had before? Because from from what I know is
Mhm.
that you had a company that you sold and you got a big chunk of money.
Mm-hmm. But I also had to have that in order to get myself there.
The mindset?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to have that mindset in which that, you know, that unwavering, you know, kind of like faith, as well as, you know, those that know me very well know that I also live my life by a simple quote: the dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have probably seen me post it on my social media. I don't know. That's probably like my most thing post other than pictures of my wife and me. But I mean, the dream is free because everybody is free to dream. Like, even when as a startup entrepreneur, I dreamed big. You know, I dreamed a lot and I had failures in the process. But the dreams were free because they always come to you. Like when you fall asleep, you dream. That's free. But when you put in that hustle, that energy to learn and to go even beyond what you know that most folks around you would never do in order to get there, I mean, that's the hustle. And when you get to that, go ahead.
This is such a perfect time because I've distinguished, like I have a barrier. Like I realize that I can't dream big. Like, not that I can't, it's not, it's the story that I have, but I'm really learning my capacity to dream big because I've always just been so grateful for what I've got, and I live a very simple life where I don't need a lot, and when I get a lot, it's a lot, right? So it's like I can be really content, and content also breeds complacency, and that's where I know I get trapped sometimes,
Yeah.
Until I have a desire for something else. And so I get limited on my desire for I'm limited on my desire to dream big. And I'm like, how do I dream big? And that's why I ask you, is because for me it's like I don't know what I know until I see it. Like I don't know what I don't know, so
That's everybody. That's everybody.
you see other people have these things, and but you're like,
Anybody that's telling you that they already knew or something like that, that's, I mean, my BS meter is like really, really starting to beam at that point. But it's just like, you don't know these things until you actually go through them. And like, for example, like, let's just think about it like this. Let's just look at this small trajectory of time, shall we?
mhm,
Because I mean, like I always say, the greatest asset that you will ever encompass is time. And how you spend it is like, that's the one thing that you can never get back. So here we are. Let's say let's take these last 3 weeks, shall we? Think
mhm,
about where you spent your time on Tuesday and Thursday at 4 o'clock. And then think about where you've gotten to over these 3 weeks, something in which that you probably have thought about in the past about doing, or
mhm,
whatever it was, and there was a psychological barrier or whatever whatever was blocking you from getting to where you are.
mhm,
But now here you stand and you've made an investment, you understand investment, and now you're looking towards the future.
mhm.
Something in which that if we look back 3 weeks ago, was that even in your peer view?
No. I would just continue to try to work even harder for something that I'm not really sure what I want. Like it's for like
But the biggest
yeah.
thing that you want is you want to have a good life.
Mhm.
You want to live a life that is, you know, that ultimately that you don't have to worry. So security.
Totally.
And then on top of that, you're thinking probably legacy now that you have, you know, the next generation in which that you're raising, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so think about it. There's dreams there, and they're going to freely come to you. The question is that, you know, the hustle can be, say, for example, you just adding a little bit more extra oomph into it, a little bit of extra energy, spending the extra time, say, for example, reading and studying and gaining the knowledge, asking questions like we're doing now. I mean, that's where the hustle comes from. I mean, and as you learn from these things, I mean, like I said, it's like your mind will want more.
I think that was great that you said that. That's like a really big distinction, is you being able to really expand the concept of what hustle is.
Yeah, because everybody just thinks that the hustle is just like, you know, it's just got to be super gritty. And at times it's going to be gritty, but I mean, the hustle is just more than that. It's, you know, the hustle is, you know, hey, you're literally like spending the time doing something in which that honestly it's an investment into yourself. And most folks, let's just be honest, many people don't make the investment into themselves. When you see folks just like literally just doing stuff that's a daily routine, it's like clockwork. It's just, you know, hey, I wake up, I do this and everything else. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a grind to get up from bed, especially if you're tired or whatever it is. And no shade to that, but it's kind of like it's routine. But can you break that routine and add something else that in which that it adds another thing, but it's like you're doing it for yourself to build yourself up so that way you can get to a higher place, whatever that higher place is, of whatever it is that you deem as another level of success. That's where the hustle comes into play. Whereas like the times when you don't feel like doing it, or in the times it's like, you know, that it's going to help you grow as a person or as a professional, like that's where the hustle is. Putting the time and energy towards something when you don't have to, you could just like literally just say, okay, hey, I just enjoy this and just be content with it.
Yeah.
That's the hustle. Sorry, that's my dog in the background. Yeah, and now he lays back down. But yeah, so that's why I said it's like, you know, everybody's free to dream. When I sit back and listen to startup pitches that come across my desk, I mean, I always tell people I'm a trafficker of dreams and ideas, because ultimately they entrust me with an idea and they're expecting me, or not really expecting, but hoping that I'm going to invest in it. And if I'm going to invest in it, I got to see, okay, hey, well, you know, if I'm coming in and I worked hard for where I got to, now the question is, it's like, okay, well, can you meet me at that same energy? Can you meet me at that same mountain? You know, and that's what I'm looking for. And if I don't see that, then it's like, okay, well, why should I invest if you're not showing that you're willing to meet me there? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why I said the dream is you're free to dream. The question is, what do you do after you dream? You know, I think Sidney Poitier, a famous actor, you know, he would dream, and then as soon as he woke up, he would write the things that he wrote, that he dreamed about in his journal or in his diary, and then he remembered it, and then ultimately it helped. He said it helped him become a better actor.
I only have bad dreams, so.
Hey, you never know. You may write an amazing thriller, and then next thing you know, Blumhouse Productions picks it up.
Actually, that's so funny. That is like my fiance did an exercise with me, and he asked me, if you were, you know, you didn't have to worry about money, what would you do? Like what? And it is to write film.
And go write a film. I'm like, you know, if it's out there, nothing is ever going to be given to you in this world. You make your own luck. And like I said, don't wait for the perfect time, because it never will ever happen. The only way that it becomes the perfect time is once it's happened. And then you see the result and the rewards from it. Then you say it was perfect timing. Mm-hmm. Like you say that it's hard to say that like making the investment in AMD or Facebook was the perfect timing, right?
Yeah.
But now that you're in the investment, and when you start seeing them returns, you're like, oh, perfect timing.
Yeah. Steve Jobs said it, right? You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking back.
There you go. Success is traceable. Success is a lot like failure, though. You can trace them both. You can trace them.
Okay, now let's get into the investor versus trader conversation.
Oh man. So a lot of folks have been asking me, or asking both myself and Joanne. I'm sorry about that, Joanne. But a lot of folks have been asking us options trading. Now, when you're an investor, I mean, you can trade stocks, and that's just pretty much you buy a stock and then you wait for a pop, or you wait to get to a certain return from the stock and then you sell it and then you're into the next one. You can do that. What I did was I do a little bit of a hybrid of both. So when people ask me, am I an investor or am I a trader? I'm a hybrid of both. I like to own large portions of stock, but then at the same token, I also like to trade a significant portion of options. You know, and like I mentioned earlier in this conversation, what separates investor from trader is a trader lets go of things pretty quickly. Many times on the typical time, it's about short term. So anywhere from, let's say, a week to say, for example, 2 years. In some cases, 2 years is considered short. An investor, on the other hand, they're looking to hold on to a position unless it's just failing and they just know that they need to get out. They typically are in a position for anywhere from roughly 4 to roughly 10 years. You know, if you always see those CNBC videos where it says, if you invested $1,000 into this company, you'd have this return. I mean, those are long-term those are investors. So back to options trading. So a lot of folks want to know, what is options trading? So here's a little, I guess here's a second like little golden nugget that I'm going to introduce this evening, and then we'll probably get to it on another day to go a little bit further in depth. But think of options trading as if you were a lease option to own. If you had a lease option to own to buy a house. So let's just say for this example, and Ranny and Jolene, you can play along. Well, Jolene, you already know the answer. So Ranny, you can play along. So let's just say that you saw this house, but you don't have the full amount of money for it. So let's say the house costs $400,000, but you don't have the money for it. But the owner says, you know what, hey Ranny, you're a pretty cool person, and you and your fiance, this could be a great home for you guys to raise your child. So then they offer you a lease option to own. And they say, okay, hey, we'll give this house to you for 2 years for you to rent, and then a portion of your rent goes towards the ownership of the home. Now, you're on contract for $400,000 for the house, right? So you put in a small little down payment, which is like your security deposit, and then you pay for 2 years. Now, let's say in 2 years, the market significantly appreciates. So it's worth more than $400,000. Let's say it's worth $600,000. What is the price that you're paying for this home?
You're still paying 400 because that was a contract, wasn't it?
So, which means that was a pretty lucrative deal, right? Because now that you are now going to be the owner of this home, if you choose to execute, you walk into a home where you also have $200,000 in equity. That's a come up. See what I did there? Yeah. All right. So, all right. So think of options trading in the same manner. You know, when you think about it, like an options trader, I mean, they spend lesser money in comparison to buying the stock, but at the same token, they are going to trade on option, which gives them the option to either buy or sell at that price. And so they'll spend, say, for example, X amount of dollars, let's say $1,000 on an option contract. So for those of you guys that want to follow along, take your pen and paper, and then say, for example, let's say in all fairness, let's say that Facebook was $100. We'll take Randy's like example from earlier. Let's say that Facebook was $100, and you bought 10 shares of Facebook for, you know, 1,000. And then let's say that you traded the option, which was, let's say, $1 per contract. Now I'm going to break it down for you. Each contract equals 100 shares in that contract. So now you have 10 contracts of Facebook. Now let's say that you say that, okay, hey, like we say, like the 400,000 for the house, that's considered the strike price. So we're going to say that Facebook's going to reach 110 by, let's say, June. Now let's say that Facebook goes up to 110 by June. How much did you make in owning the stock?
You lost me.
You remember you own 10 shares of Facebook. The stock went up $10 per share.
Mm-hmm.
How much did you make as being a stock owner of Facebook?
$100, right?
You got $100 profit. Now here's where the math changes for, say, for example, that option. So that option was currently valued at $1 when you bought it.
Mm-hmm.
But then Facebook started going up. And how options work is they become more attractive, meaning they become more lucrative the more that you are getting to that strike price. Because remember, you now have the option to buy or sell it to anybody else, which makes it attractive to other buyers that may want to buy it from you. So now the value of that option contract goes up to, let's say, $4 per contract. Now here's where the math gets a little bit different. And so let's say it's now $4. Now here's how this is how you calculate it. You take the $4 per contract, multiply that times 100, and then multiply that times 10. So if it's $4 per contract, we already know it's now $400.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now $400 times 10.
It's 40,000 times 10. I'm sorry, 4,000.
There you go. So $4,000, subtract the $1,000 that you spent.
Uh-huh. 3,000.
$3,000 profit versus $100 profit that you just got from being a shareholder of the stock.
Then why would I buy when I can just lease?
Because there's a risk. There's a risk. Because when you're a shareholder of a stock, as long as the shares have value, then ultimately you're going to have value. Remember, you're holding on to it long term. But when you're trading a stock, and especially when you're trading an option, so which means you only lose what you put in. So for example, let's take that lease option to own. Let's say that you guys say, okay, hey, we've been here for 2 years, but we kind of don't want to move into this house. We don't want to buy it. Your thoughts change. You just lost everything in which that you put down for that house in order to walk away. Same rules apply when it comes to options trading. So if the option goes the opposite way, whatever you put in, you lose.
Okay.
So when it comes to that, when it comes to being an option trader, and that's why I say everybody's not made to be an options trader, and not everybody should start to be an option trader, because you got to know the fundamentals of the stock or of the companies before you even do any options trade.
Okay.
That's just a teaser. That's just a teaser. But just so that way people understand, it's just a little bit different.
Okay, that makes sense though. It's like leasing stocks.
Yeah, because once you get to that price, you have the option to either buy it and turn it into stock ownership for yourself, or you can sell it over to somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So you have to hold the option for a certain period of time.
Well, you have a certain period of time in which that you can hold it for. When I remember when I said June, it expires when it comes to the expiration. If you haven't executed by that time, the option ultimately just expires and it goes away.
Okay, cool. I'll be right back. You continue talking.
Actually, we're getting ready to call it. We're getting ready to call it because, am I right, Jolene?
Yes.
I know. I saw you looking up. You're like, hey, we're going over.
But briefly, right quick, there was a question about. Let me scroll back up. Britta, I saw your question. I'm going to get to you. There was a question about oil. Roger Reeves bought some oil stock 4 years ago at $3, and now it's $11.92. He says, "Where do you see oil stocks going?"
I see oil stocks making a rebound when the economy gets back, but also keep in mind, renewable energy has started to change some things. So it may be a little bit slow, but I mean, it will get back up to where it once was. But like I said, it's going to be a slow creeper, and unless we, the economy is just roll back and just like, oh, all is good. I mean, the reason why oil fell was because of the fact that there was so much production, but there wasn't a lot of folks out there like pretty much purchasing oil or, say, for example, getting gas. So now that you have a lot of the economies returning back to work, then pretty much you're going to start seeing those oil reserves being tapped into. So I see oil making a comeback, and it's going to roar back.
All right, here's a question from Britta. Is there ever a case, she has two questions. Question one, is there ever a case when you have to buy the contract yourself, the 100 shares? And then she asked, her follow-up question is, and when you say execution, do you mean sell the call option?
Yes, sell the call option to execute. Whenever we say execute, that means either to sell or to buy. That just means that you just made a move. What was the first part of the question again?
Is there ever a case where you have to buy the contract yourself?
You don't have to. I mean, that's the whole point of it being an option. You have the option to buy or sell it, but typically if you're up or wherever you're at, you definitely need to execute it. If not, you're going to kiss pretty much whatever money that you've invested goodbye.
So as we close the show, Ranny, first of all, thank you so much for coming on here and being brave and just getting your questions answered and talking Trade Talk for Tuesday. A couple of announcements. One, we were invited to be on a show coming up on Thursday. We're calling it the After Party. We're going to be talking about finance and our journey, and it's hosted by Marita, which is my friend from college. Small world. She's like really good friends with Mark's wife. I mean, I didn't even know they knew each other. It's just such a small world. The link for her show so that you can watch it. You got to get your registration for it. I'm gonna put the link in the comments, and it's about her whole series is about health and different perspectives of health. So we're talking about health and finance. Mark, you want to add anything about that?
No, you just nailed it on its head. And plus, my throat is parched.
Oh, he needs some water. Thirsty.
We'll have more information about that after Thursday's show as well. But get registered so you can get your link and get set up.
I'm looking forward to that. It's like the after party is going to be lit, but also, I mean, I'm looking for what you guys are going to provide me in Hot Take Thursday. You guys always be coming in hot, so it's going to be interesting to see what's coming in, guns blazing.
And what is this, Jew?
Oh, Thursday's show is Hot Take Thursday, where we talk about like the news and how it impacts your money, aka your come up. And then there's an after party. We'll be guests on another show. And
right after?
Yep, right after. So I'll really be looking at the clock that time.
Yeah.
Like, right after. I think we have a 5-minute gap, and then it's. So we want everyone to come with us to the after party. There'll be more information posted on the page about.
Yes, please register. Please register, because yeah, I think it's going to be some pretty dope questions there. So I guess I'm just got to prepare myself. Everything off of the top of the dome.
Totally.
All right, is that it?
That's it. That's all she wrote.
Randy, thank you for being a guest on our show. We definitely want to have you keep coming if you'd like to. But yeah.
I'll be watching.
Here's the come up for you today.
Yeah, totally.
All right, Jolene. I'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.